Hi, and welcome to episode 3 of the Matriarchy podcast. We hope you've been enjoying the show so far. I'm Kath.
And I'm Lisa, and I'd like to introduce our guest today. Marilyn Trent founded the Rochesterpollinators in 2019 and currently leads the organization. Marilyn also sits on the Rochester, Michigan City Council and continues to run her business, Trent Creative. Her commitment to her community and the environment is inspiring, and we are eager to talk to her about our latest project, the Rochester Miniforest. So welcome, Marilyn.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on the Matriarchy.
For sure. I'm excited that you are doing this new venture and joining the podcast revolution.
That's exactly what it is, a revolution. So you have lived in Rochester for many years and are very active in volunteering in your community. You have a strong voice that you have used to give back to your community. Have you always had the ability to use your voice?
I would say so. I was raised by women, so my dad wasn't available very much in my life, and so I didn't really know there was patriarchy so much because there wasn't one happening. When I was in the South working at a crystal company, which is like a White Castle. I was approached by my assistant manager. I was like 16 years old, and he said, "You know, you don't seem to know the difference between men and women." And I said, "Oh, I know." I said, "Is there?" And he goes, "Okay, fine, Marilyn."
Okay, so wait, just to pause. This was a 16-year-old kid who was your manager?
No, I was 16 and
gotcha.
I was 16 at the time, and I just started working there. So I always thought of that. And it was a little bit backwards for me because then I started seeing the difference. But because, like when you asked, did I have a voice? Because I thought I was entitled to it, I was surprised about the fact that there is a difference. And it's, not just because of, gender, I guess. It was because I was a woman, but I never, because it was ingrained in me that why was there be a difference? There wasn't in my life. I never had to acquiesce or go, the man of the house. Well, there wasn't one. And actually I was leaned on to be the man of the house. So the answer is I always had a voice.
Okay.
But
excellent.
I felt like deep inside I did, but I did have lots of things happen to me because I was a woman.
Do you have siblings, Marilyn?
I do. I have 2 older sisters. Mm-hmm.
Oh, so it was really a house full of women.
It was.
So you were the baby. Too.
I was the baby, yes.
And you still had a voice. So that talks about the dynamics of your family, though.
It sure does.
Yeah.
All right, so tell us a little bit about your business, Trent Creative, and why you started that.
Well, my major at Eastern Michigan University was Bachelor of Fine Arts, and I was actually majoring in ceramics.
Oh.
And my dad said to me, "Do you think maybe, you want a plan B? A lot of people have them. And, maybe you aren't going to make a real living at making ceramics." And so I got an art teaching certificate. And then from there, I took a graphic design class. I graduated in Ann Arbor, so they didn't need art teachers. So I ended up at an ad agency. And then when I moved up here to marry my husband, Rod Burleson, I just started freelancing as a freelance designer, and I really loved it. I loved the art side. I loved the people side. Loved talking to clients. And then I did a lot for the nonprofit side because I felt like that they were underserved and they would actually hire me as well. So it all worked out well. My company just started growing. So because of my service my ability to basically sell and service these clients, then I needed to hire more people. So I ended up with wound up with two offices, one in Rochester, one in Detroit, for about 10 years. Still, I have a small presence there as well. One of my biggest clients is Downtown Detroit Partnerships, the downtown parks. We do all the marketing and event collateral for them. So it's a nice project. We did the NFL draft in the D last year.
Oh, you
which
did?
is
Oh, cool.
Yes, my company did all of that collateral and the design of the logo. Yeah.
That's exciting. That must have been really exciting.
Some of my clients were the Detroit Institute of Arts, Detroit Historical
Oh.
Society, Gleaner's Food Bank, and then I would have commercial clients like manufacturing. I did a lot of work for manufacturers like Jack Products, who's a $100 million international automotive tier 1 supplier. One of the largest steel distributors in North America, Eaton Steel. So we were working both manufacturing and nonprofit organizations for a while. And I had about 7 people working for me at my height. I have definitely downsized.
That's interesting, Marilyn. I was thinking about how you're your own boss and probably have been for a long time.
Yeah.
And how does that inform how you are a boss and how you, I don't know if manage the right word, but like lead your coworkers?
Well, years ago, in the early 2000s, there was a book and a man called John Maxwell, and the book was called, I think it was Leadership Within, something like that. And I realized I was a leader. I didn't know I was a leader. I was an accidental entrepreneur. I just started growing my business. My business plan was I wanted to have an office in Detroit. I would like to have 7 people. I wanted to do the best graphic design because I'm from the design side. That was my goal. So I learned I was a leader and it could be taught. And that the company can only grow as much as the leader can grow. And I was kind of surprised by that because I'm like, whoa. And I've seen it a lot. I've been in so many businesses when I'm talking to the owner, you could see how that culture is coming straight from the top. I've sat at tables when the owner is there and they's like, oh yeah, we got the team here. They got a lot to say. And they're like, and they would say nothing. And others would just lean in. They would be trusted and we would be trusted for the type, if we could do what we wanted to do. So leadership has been the core of me thinking and learning about what do you say when someone does this? How do you react? I work with creatives and they're a little finicky. And now I was a creative and it helped, but because I knew I could talk their language. But that was the problem between ad agencies. There's a big disconnect between the creative department and the marketing department. And the creative was always said, oh, just make it look pretty, make it look pretty. And that's why I started my own business, because I didn't want to be just make it look pretty section.
Before we move on from this, I want to go back to something you said. So are you saying that only when leaders grow themselves does the business grow? So can you tell me a little bit about that?
Yes, I can. It's very psychological and emotional, and it does go back to, I guess you would say Simon Sinek's why, when he says, why are you doing what you do? And I started exploring that in my world, and because I came from a dysfunctional family, I like to fix things and solve problems. And that is why I became more of a leader if someone else is leading. You just kind of hop in and start doing stuff, right? When my company started growing, that wasn't enough. I had to go talk to a therapist. I felt like I wasn't communicating well. And so she ended up being more of my business coach as to how do you talk to this person when this is happening. But it truly helped me grow emotionally so that I could handle that growth. Now, not to say the companies don't grow, but they do tend to grow more dysfunctionally. And the employees are not empowered. I belong to an organization that focused on marketing companies because I was a fine arts degree. I had no idea how to do any of this. I learned a lot in the ad agency, but not enough.
Well, I love what you said about you as a leader, you're empowering the people around you.
I learned that leaders, if you're standing at the mountain and doing shout outs, that is not leadership. You need to pull people up with you. And then just that concept helped me think, now, am I pulling people up with me, or am I doing the job so that it's all fixed and I don't have to confront that they can't do it, or I don't have time to teach them, or am I like discouraging them? You know, because like you have to learn to like not get in there, try to get in there and tweak it.
Yeah. That's hard.
It is hard. It's very hard. So tell us how you took all of that and your leadership and moved it to the community, and like how did you first start getting involved in leadership in the community?
I wanted bike racks in the city of Rochester in 2005,
And we thank you.
Yes.
Well, we had 2 trails and we didn't have any bike racks. So I asked the executive director of the DDA, what about bike racks? And she sent me, her name was Christy DeVaro, so she still is there. And she sent me to city council. And I said, hey, you want any bike racks? You know, I would say, hey, you're either for bike racks or you're against them. So you need to make a stand.
Very controversial.
Yes.
I tried that a couple of times. I see how government works now. And how it works is I got a seat at the table because I got a call when I was in Washington, D.C. on a little trip with my daughter and husband. And it was from, I believe it was from Stuart Vixen. I think he was mayor at the time, but he was on city council. And he says, what about being on the Downtown Development Authority Board of Directors? And I was thinking about it. And I said, okay, I'll do it. And I'm still on there. Now I'm a liaison. But I learned about the city and I learned more about how government runs. And so what I started was a committee called the Green City Committee, the only one in the nation for downtown development authorities. There was no resource for green sustainability programs or anything. So we had the first Earth Day Fest. I had a monthly series at the farmers market named Best Green Practices. We were trying to bring back recycling to the business district, but finally I just threw up my hands. I just was like, just recycle it. It doesn't work because I learned all about how garbage contaminates recycling, and it's just a hot mess. Christy told me, try it. It never worked for me, but go ahead and try it. Anyway, they cut my budget to 0, so that wasn't very helpful because we had designed the logo, all the marketing materials. We still have the t-shirts, really kind of cool. But anyway, yeah, so that was how I got in. And so when I learned that the monarch butterfly was in decline by 90% in 2019 on a cold January day from the Environmental Defense Fund brochure, and all you had to do was plant milkweed. I thought, oh, well, that's what we'll do. We'll just and my idea was we'll just have the landscapists plant native plants on Main Street and the other places that he plants and does landscaping in Rochester. And I presented this to the board of directors, and they said, yes, that sounds like a great idea, but it doesn't fit into economic development because that's what DDAs do. So they punted me over to the City Beautiful Commission, which was a wonderful idea because then I got the whole city to work with, and they embraced me. And that's how the City Beautiful Commission now has a mission statement to incorporate native plantings in all landscaping discussions.
And this is for the city of Rochester. So if I'm getting this right, in the city of Rochester, all new plantings have to be native plants?
They have to be looked at if they can be. And
Okay.
Yes, can they, to have that more expansive view of, wow, can we put native plants here instead of a non-native, or at least not invasive species? Now, what happened was and I wanted to work through the city. I didn't want to have a nonprofit. I've worked with nonprofits. I know what it takes. And I thought, I had all these ideas. Okay, I'll get everybody else to plant them. I'll work through the city, and then I'll just be this little committee. I don't have to worry about people. I don't have to worry about all the paperwork. They can just donate to the butterfly pledge and yada yada. Well, then I got on city council, I stayed on there. But when I got elected, I had to pull it out of the city because it would become a conflict of interest for me to be running a nonprofit through the city. And it basically is a combination of, really, my company supports it. I'm the angel investor, so they still don't have to deal with running a full nonprofit. Anybody wants to donate, they donate to the community foundation. Because you're saying, what has my experience taught me? I know how this works. And so when I see the stage 1, 2, and 3 growth in my world with Rochester Pollinators, that to encourage and educate people on the value of native plants and trees and shrubs, that I couldn't do it on myself, but I saw by myself anymore. So I hired Michelle to be my communications director. Now she's my volunteer coordinator. She helps me with everything. Then I got somebody, Amy Bordeaux, to help get the Etsy shop up and running and help me with swag. Now I'm down to 1. And that's how I do it. Otherwise, it looks like a bigger organization because of the experience I have with communications and knowing who to hire and keep it, and how to keep it streamlined as well.
So I'm really curious about what you said about teaching people the value of native plants. Like, there's a lot of people that are going to be listening that are like, I just like this, it's pretty, I'm going to plant this. So can you give your elevator pitch on why this is important?
What we're facing is the global 6th mass extinction. And what that means is that we're losing not only our wildlife, we're also losing our insects. And it will cause the food web to collapse. And it has happened because we have replaced in North America 40 million acres of habitat with lawn. And we're using a lot of pesticides and herbicides, so we poison these insects, which include butterflies. And I use that as the poster child or poster insect because people can relate to them and they like them.
Pretty.
Yeah. We've lost 40%, like I said, of those, and 1/3 of our food supply depends on these insects for pollination, and also planting non-native that is normally comes from another region into the landscaping. You're not feeding them anymore. So they evolved together all around the world. And so if you lose that plant, you will lose that insect eventually. And that's what we're doing. And so what I tell people is the good news is most of the reasons that we're losing them can be solved individually by restoring and adding these plants back into your landscapes. And they are not scary like people think they are. I have a brochure that I distribute that has a home garden friendly versions, and this is like a beginner entry brochure on how to plant a pollinator garden. The main thing is that no herbicides, no pesticides. That's what's killing the insects. And on top of that, there's neonicotinoids, and neonicotinoids are as bad as DDT, and they're used in agriculture, but now they've been started being used for decorative purposes, and they attack the nervous system of insects. And the plant, it's really awful because the plant becomes systemic. It becomes poison. So the little bees, they can't believe, I found a little flower. Boink, he dies because the pollen or the nectar will kill it. So now that there is some good news here because the big box stores started getting a lot of pushback because you would buy milkweed and a little caterpillar would just die because it was poison. So what I have found out is there's corporations, they learn these things. They have bee friendly, they call it BEE friendly, pollinator friendly, and they have a statement on their website. We don't use neonics on any of our and on our flowers. So I have always been concerned, and I was totally shocked that I had missed this. I didn't even know about the little monarch and its little migratory path of 2,800 miles to Mexico, and I just am fascinated.
You can share this on the website and in social media too, this
Yeah.
information. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So we have the rose milkweed, and then we have the butterfly weed, and those are the home garden friendly ones. And they spread through seeds, and that's the fluff. It kind of flows around. Oh, you can cut it off so if you don't want to float, if it doesn't want to float in your neighbor's place. I don't know. It's not that bad in my view. I always say it's not like these plants are going to, break in your house and steal your wine or anything. They just have, they, they just have pretty well, people view them as prairie. They were in our prairies. They don't recognize how beautiful they can be, like a coneflower, butterfly milkweed. A lot of people,
Yeah, they are beautiful.
A lot of these, like beard tongue, which they've been made into cultivars to increase the sizes, and I really like the delicacy of the sizes I've gotten used to, and it's so much less boring than these same old, boxwoods and petunias and whatnot. Because there's another thing we tell people is that a boxwood supports 0 species, where a New Jersey tea supports 115 species. A New England aster, 117 species. A petunia is like 3. And then the magnificent oak, the oak tree supports 564 species. It's totally a keystone species. And the ginkgo tree is 3. So once you start seeing the difference and you're pulling out these trees that were here in Oakland County, thus the name, and then you're replacing them with these non-native trees, you've lost 564 opportunities to support some of these species that were here.
And so for people newer to gardening or who aren't quite as passionate or as experienced as you, what advice can you give on like maintenance and like, is it scary, right?
Yeah,
to like
it
have
is
to do these.
It can be, because they do spread through seeds, and it is a new way of learning how to garden with them. The seed heads, I mean, you learn it depends on how deep you want to go. Sometimes people just want to integrate just a few in their yard and gardens and their gardens, and that's fine. We are not purist. We just say, try it out for a ride. You may get addicted, you may not, but you can. Leaving the seed heads on is what was the natural bird feeder for the birds that don't migrate from Michigan. There's also a 4 seasons way. For instance, leaving as many leaves around a little tidy way in your gardens with maybe a little mulch on top can save a lot of butterflies, because that's the little blanket or the little binky that they overwinter in. It could be in the larval stage, it could be the butterfly stage or the egg stage. So you're taking your hard work to the curb. And these leaves, they were meant to re-nourish the tree. They were not meant to be buried in landfills where they create methane. So I also learned that if you've got these leaves piled up and you've got at the bottom, it is really, really moist. So it's keeping the ground moist when we go through dry periods. Not that you can do this to your whole yard, but you can add a thin layer of mulch over this and retain those nutrients, retain that ecosystem wealth that was meant to be. And we're asking people, take a new way of looking at your yard. We're saying it's like art, you get a taste for it. You learn to say, hey, relax, hopefully do you really want on your gravestone that your yard looked like a golf course and poisoned everything that came in contact with it? Or do you want to have the joy that it's right here for you, when the insects and the butterflies and the little non-stinging little native bees, the dragonflies, the hummingbirds, they come back. Nature's resilient. It's amazing what begins to happen in your yard.
Marilyn, have you always been interested in gardening? Was it a staple in your youth?
My grandma liked her daffodils. No, I was not. My mom didn't like it at all. I did. There was a couple of women in my life when our family lived next door to a woman. Her name was Miss Sooty Bandy. And she had a beautiful little rose garden. She wouldn't let me touch it, though. She was this woman. She must have been in her 80s. She never married. I mean, this was in the 60s. Very strong woman. She'd had some kind of, she inherited some money. And so she had this little rose garden, and it was just like idyllic. I was a little kid. I was like, I don't know, second grade. And I would walk very carefully in it, and I just loved it. But I didn't know how much work they were, so I'm a lazy gardener. so I kept
I'm glad to hear
trying.
that, actually.
I am telling you, people like, oh, let's take a look at your garden. No. I'm helping everybody with their gardens. It was like when I wanted. It's a
I like that. That's how I, yeah. I can
and then bike racks. People thought I biked all the time. I don't bike all the time. I just thought I just thought we needed bike racks. Somebody thought, oh my God, you must cycle. Oh, no, I don't. I jog. I do jog, but I don't cycle that much. No, I'm a lazy gardener. And I'm always trying to figure out ways how I don't have to do as much. That was how I started all this.
I appreciate that.
No.
I love hearing
No,
that,
not at
actually.
all.
I am not much of a gardener, and so it's encouraging actually to hear this.
Yeah, so we do. Yeah, well, I'm glad because I've just seen a lot of people come back over the years. We have hundreds of people now. We are selling, I don't know, 8 times as much as we did the first 2 years when we were selling these plants, because you have to have a good source to get the authentic ones. There's a lot of cultivars that are mixtures of GMO that they've genetically modified them. The nurseries have to sell better. And it cuts down on the nutrients of these plants. Like, for instance, a butterfly bush, people see butterfly, it's not really that healthy, and it's actually an invasive species. So the butterfly bush is like junk food for a butterfly. So, oh my God, I've got a butterfly bush. Well, keep that, but add a Joe Pye or the milkweed or the New England aster, because that's sort of their meat and potatoes. And they have to start in the spring, and they have to be fed all the way through October. It's nice to be part of the seasonal change that happens from spring to October, when the first plants will bloom could be your wood poppy or your columbine, and then the next one is the beard tongue, and then the milkweed, and then you go into the sand coreopsis and the coneflowers, and then by fall you've got the Riddell's goldenrod, which, by instance, another myth buster, is not ragweed, and it does not spread pollen. Has no allergy issues at all. No, they don't. None of the goldenrods. And then the New England aster. So you have like these friends coming back in a rhythmic way that helps you connect more to what we survive with, and why we're here is because nature is holding this planet together.
For our listeners who aren't from Michigan or even from the Rochester area, what advice could you give on buying native plants, or like what to make sure that they look for? I don't know, any advice that you could give about buying native plants.
There's an organization called wildones.org. It's a national organization, and they have chapters all around the United States. I belong to North Oakland Wild Ones, and that's a membership organization that they have monthly meetings, and they can help you source them. We have our seeds on Etsy, and we sell native seeds, so that and we have swag on Etsy if anybody wants them, and we have swag at Busy Buzz. Yeah, we have the bee pins, the ladybug pins, and other things, and native seeds. Make sure that you look for the Latin name, and legally they have to put the Latin name of the native plant, so that it's not easy sometimes, but more and more people are interested in it, especially younger people. A realtor was asking me to have a packet so she could give to younger people, because they don't want their mother's or father's landscaped yard.
That's good news. Yeah, that's really good news. Okay, so let's talk about the mini forests a little bit. So first, how did you learn about the concept, and what drew you to it?
Well, it's advertising again. It was Facebook from Canada. It's a Canadian Post. Green communities was their program for all of Canada for the sustainability and conservation of Canada. So it sent me to a course on the miniforest. Another was a rain garden. They're all free and they're amazing. Then I saw that the miniforest was only an hour, an hour. You can follow this. It wasn't a big commitment, and it sounded amazing. So, and it had all the handouts that you would need, all the information that you would need to do it in your community. So I just said, we have to have one. We really need to have one. It's an amazing concept to restore urban degraded land with native plants, shrubs, and trees by replicating a traditional forest that would have been in your area from 300 square feet and up.
So I had the good fortune to go to the ribbon cutting, and there were a lot of people there. Do you want to describe the mini forest a little bit that you guys planted and what the timeline going forward is?
So the mini forest that we planted has 290 native trees and shrubs based on a, like I said, the replication of how a traditional forest is layered. So you have your canopy, your subcanopy, your understory trees, and your shrubs. And then you can have some native plants around the edges as well. So what we had to do is have this formula of 52 canopy trees that are 12 varieties and 106 understory trees of 11 varieties and 132 shrubs of 11 varieties, and 90% of them are indigenous to Oakland County. We had to get the soil remediated because it was on a garbage dump. So talk about a degraded land. Yeah, it's on the edge of town. I knew I could find somehow this could happen, especially with the city supporting it. And my city manager, Nick Banda, was amazing. He embraced it. He's a forester, and he thought this is a fabulous idea.
Oh,
yeah,
perfect.
he did. And so the DPW and the Parks Department were integral of making this happen. And one of the employees, Carrie Martin, that works for Parks Department, she cuts a lot of grass, but she said forestry degree, and she said, I am so excited that this is happening. And so she took some of her own time and put together the layout of how to divide these trees and shrubs like they would have in the past, you know. So I had no idea. I was making a joke of they would have just been hopping in wherever they could if it was up to me. I had no idea what to do with it. I'm sure Michelle and I would have pieced something together, but nothing like Carrie put together with her expertise. So we had that much on that side, and then we got 2 grants to pay for the materials. Also, we had to have fencing, and we paid for the topsoil and the compost, but the leaf mulch was free because that's what you need a mixture of is compost, leaf mulch, and topsoil, because the leaf mulch helps encourage the fungi growth was what you need, and I'll get back to that, but as an important part. And so 1,000 square feet. We thought that would be a good size. It's an average size. That's what I had seen based on the Miyawaki method of this Japanese biologist, Kira Miyawaki, in 1972, came up with this method of replicating the traditional forest but planting it densely. So this is 290 trees and shrubs in 1,000 square feet, which that is not how a natural forest would grow. It will take 100 years to have a forest grow to what we're trying to do in 20 to 30 years, because it grows 10 times as fast. So it's quite amazing to watch. And I also had a little seating area created so people can be a part of it, because we had this discussion of, well, can they just walk by it? I go, no, you want to be a part of it, you know. And then people did. I had some people drive up the day of the planting and going, we just want to watch it being planted. I had more people excited about this than the native plants. And
Interesting.
It's very, very, very interesting. I was on NPR, and they were asking me, what would you tell a city? And I would say, find our information or pocketparks.org, where they have how they did it and how they structured it, the work plan and whatnot. Because the day of planting, we had to divide it up in 10 quadrants with 10 team leaders and 2 team associates per section, and it worked like clockwork. But you're tagging everything, you're making sure everything's in the right place. But they had it done in 2.5 hours. It was like a barn raising. It was like a barn raising, and people, no, a lot of them were kids, and I thought they can come and see their forests grow.
I
This
love
will
that.
last for a long time,
That's
and it's an
amazing.
educational tool.
In preparing for this interview, I went yesterday and stopped
Oh,
by. And, I've lived in Rochester for over 15 years, and I had
okay.
no idea that
Oh,
even the community gardens were there. And it
yeah.
was sort of behind there. And as luck would have it, there were three workers that were there. Two
Oh,
people, and Colin was one of them. I
yes,
remember his
Colin. Oh
name.
my
And
gosh, he dug it. He
he
dug
was
it.
amazing. And he really went through um, the process of it, and
Oh,
it's looking so good. I mean, it was rainy and cold yesterday, which is probably a great way to see it because it was popping, it was blooming, and everything. It was so interesting how they're taking care of it, and it's blooming as a result.
oh, they have embraced it. Carrie had it added new life to them. They said, "We love doing this. We are restoring something, and we don't have to mow it." And I was at a DDA meeting, and I was saying, "This weather is so good for this mini forest." And they're like, "Oh, wow, is that what it is?" And that's what I want people to make a connection for. Your weather of raining and the coolness, it's the best thing this mini forest could have ever had, because you plant it in the fall or the spring. And fall's even better because of the wetness and the coolness and the whole thing to get things established. It's just wonderful. And that's the way spring was supposed to work. And hopefully, and that was it. And I'm so excited that Colin loves this forest. It's like he has embraced it.
He really has, because he talked to me about it for half an hour. It was wonderful. And I thought I read also that this is like a rain garden of sorts, or it helps with the rain, like
Oh
water
yeah.
absorption.
Oh, for sure. That was what I put on the back of my program. Always educational. You can see I do have an art education degree. That's what I love to do, is educate people. So it is stormwater management to up to 25 to 30,000 gallons of annual rainwater absorption,
Wow.
which is 90% more than your lawn. Your lawn is like one step, I don't know, maybe better or worse than concrete, because because of worst part is that you have to use pesticides and herbicides or whatever you're using to keep it that way. Some people do, and it doesn't absorb water because it's got 2 inches of grass roots, and then it compacts. So that's the other thing with native plants. It decompacts the soil, and their roots are 6 to 15 feet deep.
How many bugs is it going to feed?
It's over 500 insect species, including bees and butterflies.
Love it.
So then the birds, if you see them feed their baby birdies, it's through those little caterpillars. 99% or 90% of birds, they can't feed their young anything but caterpillars. So that's part of that cycle of life. And so it helps with cooling. It should be about 10 degrees cooler, and soil health. So it's competing above the ground, and it's sharing mycorrhizal fungi that is been proven by a woman who wrote the book and has changed my life, Suzanne Simard, Finding the Mother Tree.
Let's talk about the mother tree. We got to talk about the mother tree.
Got to talk about it. You do.
That was when I went and saw
That's
it.
where
That was
you
the
can
first
lean
thing. I'm
in.
like, "Where's the mother tree?"
And we did.
Yeah,
We planted one. The stepmother tree in this case, but it's there.
that's okay. And so, how does she support the rest of the plants? Of course, it's a she.
Of course, it's a mother tree. Yes, it is basically a central hub. Every forest we found looks like the internet, because you have these large trees that are sharing nutrients with the seedlings, and they're called central hubs or mother trees, and the old growth forests all have them. And Suzanne Simard figured this out through working in the forestry industry, that when they would clear cut forests, they would put in this monoculture, and these little seedlings didn't do very well. And she's like, why are some doing better than others? Because they were doing this one like tree. I think it was all Douglas firs or something. And they thought, okay, we'll microengineer this. It didn't work at all very well. And so she started seeing how there was what you call cooperation and reciprocity. This whole competition that they're doing isn't all true. It is somewhat true. So underneath the ground, this fungi exchanges water and phosphorus and nitrogen. So the mother tree will send out those nutrients if the little seedling needs it, and usually they do. And as they grow, they can send it back. And it is done between the different types of species of the trees as well. And it's quite an amazing story. They, as a matriarchy, if you want to talk about that, the patriarchy wanted to blacklist her. They go, we don't have nothing to do with no trees talking to each other underground, okay?
Shut that down.
Shut it down.
No underground communication. That's a rebellion start.
Yeah, nobody's helping nobody do nothing, okay? Trees do not have, so it's an amazing story how she was slammed down. I think she almost got kicked out of the industry at least once. But she never quit. She was Canadian, I gotta say. And she proved this with radioactive isotopes. And she actually ended up getting breast cancer, which she may have gotten it through trying to work with these. I don't know. But unbelievable resilience. She's on TEDx as she talks about the beauty of what's happening in a forest. And you can feel, and when you go in a forest now, you're gonna see the magic, and you're gonna understand why is a forest so different from any place we ever go anywhere.
I love this idea that it's all interconnected, it's supporting, it's nurturing, empowering, if you will.
Yeah,
Growth, right?
Yeah. It's even more than that. So there's the hidden life of trees. That's a good one to read. They also figured out that these trees are warning, and they help each other with disease. And they actually help each other once, if they're still around, though, if the tree is cut down. It's like, oh my gosh, they really have a whole life of their own. And if you think about it, it's a magical thing to look at, to see this huge tree. It's just amazing.
If only we could, emulate that.
Take a lesson.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Take a lesson.
Based on that my husband had said. He's a historian. Human beings would never have gotten out of the cave without cooperation and reciprocity. I mean, and we could all learn from the trees. And what we're doing, and you start looking again at what we have done to disrupt the ecosystem, when you see these trees lined up on the streets, in your yards, that we've separated the whole way of how they were originally communicating. So if you put your understory tree next to your shrub, you could kind of put like 2 or 3 together. We were going to start kind of, advertising that, or like promoting that they're alone. They are actually loners. Yeah, they're loners. Yeah. I'm sure, but they can do this for like hundreds of yards, but it's mostly the native trees because they evolved together. And they also said that the mother tree of her own seedlings can recognize them. So she does know that these are her seedlings coming.
Interesting. I'm looking at my trees totally different now.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
It's so interesting. It's a parallel to humans, right?
Mm-hmm.
We thrive in community. We're evolved to be in community, and yet we are sort of, culture has made us hyper individualistic, and and it's made us lonely. And what we're trying to do with this Matriarchy podcast is to make sure we stay in community and we hold on to our joy, which is replicated in this tree system, in the mini forest, and the idea of the mother tree, and just the idea of Mother Nature taking care of its own community.
It's quite beautiful. She really did know so much more than us. It's been millions of years of evolution. So when you look at a tree that's 100 years old or more, and you see it cut down, you're like, it took 100 years to grow it.
And that's why it's so important what you're doing, Marilyn, because this kind of education is what people need to embrace the change, right?
Yeah,
and to see, just to look at their lawns, look at their yards in a different way. I know it has for me.
Good.
It's slow. I'm getting there. But I haven't used any fertilizer or pesticide in my lawn for a few years now. I'm sure my neighbors aren't super happy with me. But They're going to have to suck it up.
That's right. They're going to have to relax.
Sorry,
and they're going to
neighbors.
see you maybe having a nice glass of wine while you're not having to worry about all your little lawn things.
Exactly.
No,
100%.
yeah.
So thank you for
no.
what you're doing.
And the education of why this is important. It just not everyone knows it, and uplifting that story and understanding the why is really important.
Yeah, and the other good thing about the mini forest is you don't have to do anything after 2 to 3 years.
That's amazing.
Going back
That's
to
the
my,
best. That's the best.
It's the best.
Well,
It's
and-
self-sustaining.
Yeah. And going back to what you said about working with the city, like one, you're on the city council, so this speaks to the importance of local and following your passion and making a difference, like in your local community. But when I went on my little tour yesterday, it really struck me that they're working on making a pathway from, if you're local, right, you'll know from Dinosaur Hill through here and then through this maple
Yep,
the,
that comes,
the maple
yep.
trees and then past the community garden, which I had no idea was even there, and then it'll hook back into Rochester Park. And even when they're going to rebuild one of the bridges, they're hoping that this trail will be done.
Yeah.
And so like bringing like an alternate route and a place to go for a walk and to see new parts of your own city and to go from a garbage dump to a mini forest is just, it's amazing.
It was an amazing partnership of people just wanting to be a part of it, FOMO, fear of missing out. And then people come and visit it and they walk by and they feel a part of it. And then the other thing was a friend of mine who I work out with, she brought her daughter and she was telling me she has her little button, which is I planted a mini forest button that we handed out
so
to people.
cute.
Yeah, we did. And she has it on her purse. And so she said, I don't know what to do now with all the things that are happening, but I felt like that day with my daughter, I did something was lasting and something positive. And that was exactly what I wanted to hear.
That's exactly right.
perfect.
That's exactly what I
perfect.
wanted to hear. It's about something that I'm glad other people can hopefully embrace and have it. One in every city, one in every neighborhood, in the HOAs and the schools. You can put them anywhere. It's just amazing. And I think that, I'm sure there's going to be some Debbie Downers like, oh, it's not perfect. No, it's not. But
Neither is nature.
need to give her a helping hand. We need to get our boot off the neck of nature.
Exactly. Yeah, give some help. And again, I have Gen Z children, and this has really given them hope, I have to tell you. So to see this kind of effort.
Now our heavy lift is to get these invasive species banned from nurseries to sell them. And hopefully we were trying to get neonics banned from public lands, but that fell through because of the Christmas tree industry.
This is a bipartisan issue, but it's not really, this is a human issue. This transcends politics. This is our land, our community.
It's our heritage.
How can people help you in that effort? Is there a way that they can contact their own representatiors to?
Sure. Yes, they can talk about. I would love to have a pollinator initiative. What is the state of Michigan doing for pollinators to save them? And what is the state of Michigan doing about native plantings? Trying to figure out how can we get the information and talk to representatives about Japanese barberry and other invasive species. How do we help each other have a better ecosystem in Michigan through just some minor changes? But how they can help? Yeah, you can like us on Facebook at Rochester Pollinators, sign up for our newsletter, talk to your representatives. If you follow us, we are encouraging people to, see what they can do to improve our environment and landscaping, sustainability, and conservation in Michigan.
Wonderful.
So I know you're really busy, and I don't want to take too much more of your time, but before you go, we need to know, what does the matriarchy mean to you, Marilyn?
Well, my husband, he did understand the differences of how women are treated than men. And so he was always encouraging me to do more, and with my company as well. And so when I had my second child, so he retired and raised our 1-year-old. And so he said, go have a career and just find your full potential. And that's what he did. And he loved raising Megan. It was the best thing. He was a better mother than I could have been. I mean, I already did it the first time. He just did a wonderful job, and it was great tag teaming. And he would say, women nurture good and men destroy evil. And he would talk about how women, the Army had done tests because of their fine motor skills. They're better shots. And he would say, who do you want in the trenches? Do you want the best, or are you just picking out from one gender? So I didn't always understand all of this as well. Like I told you, I was like, yeah, I'm on board. That's how it's supposed to be, right? But he really helped me there. So the older that I get, it's real clear that it's more and more important to call it out. And I think that's what matriarchy means to me. To call it out as a balancing. We still don't even have the Equal Rights Amendment passed, and it's really wrong. And that's where I don't think women understand that they don't have in America the same rights still as ever. We've never had the same rights as men, and I think that that's something that needs to be an educational component of it all.
Yeah. I like that. It's the rebalancing so that both sexes have the equality. The ERA would be one start. But yeah, I like that a lot.
Neither side has been very helpful because it's good for corporations for women not to be able to have equal rights with their pay and all of it. So yeah, really, I was really disappointed. I really liked not knowing the difference. It was funny. My stint at Crystal Company really taught me a lot. I think every high schooler should have a job, a real part-time job somewhere.
Yes, I agree. You learn how, I always think you learn how the world works, and you also learn to be really nice to people. Because you experience it. Yeah.
So learn a lot, and that's, I hope the best for you and your new podcast, and we will definitely promote it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for coming on. This is wonderful. And I know you're so busy.
I am.
So I appreciate your time.
Sure. No.
And we know that we're looking forward to a pollinator podcast in the future. So
yes, we are. We have a plan.
So keep us informed.
Keep us posted.
We'll also boost you. And,
thank you.
Yeah. So thank you, Marilyn.
Oh, thank you. It was quite lovely talking to you both. You're great at this. I can tell you have a good future in front of you, and it's a niche. So I think that there aren't a lot of these podcasts like this out there, and I think that you're really onto something. And
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
I hope that uplifting women doesn't remain a niche.
I hope it doesn't. You're right.
Yes.
You're right.
Yeah,
I get it. For sure.
Yeah.
We'll become mainstream. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Well, I learned so much from listening to you and your history and your experience and your leadership skills and how that's manifested itself in the community and inspired. And I hope that this inspires our listeners outside of Michigan as well, and outside of this area in Michigan to maybe create their own mini garden or at least get involved in city government.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, your own. If you create a community around this, and it's some of the nicest people I ever have met are the one who you're organically gathering people who have become more disenfranchised. What do? I don't know how to help the environment with these laws that change by administration, and so it's something, like I said, I can't feed that little skinny polar bear on that piece of ice the fish, so I can send money, but I can actually feed the native wildlife around in my yard, and that has made people feel like they're doing, and that's not feeling, they actually are doing something, and so there's a lot of power in that. A lot of joy.
Think local. Think global, act local.
Yeah, right. Well, thank you so much. Keep pollinating.
Keep pollinating. Can't wait.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye.
I will. Bye-bye.
Wow, she is quite amazing, Lisa.
Yes, she is. Yes,
Yeah,
she
she
is.
has quite a story and her background, coming from, she's clearly very creative, right? And I love the fact that she was like, what, women aren't equal? Like, I got two sisters, I got a mom that raised us. Like,
It
I don't
wasn't
know
a
what you're talking
question.
about.
It wasn't a question until Mr. Edwards.
Till Mr. Edwards.
Dang him. But she obviously continued to, grow and be a strong woman using her voice. And I think, I've known Marilyn for a little while now, and I just admire her so much and look up to her. And every time I speak with her, I learn something new. And yeah, I just was so happy that she was able to come on today and share so much about herself and share about the pollinators, which is just such a amazing effort. I don't, I'm sure there are other groups out there. I don't know of them. It'd be interesting if our audience could, on social media, when we post this, share if they do know of other groups like this. But if there aren't any out there, they need to be started across the country
Yes.
because it's great.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. And I hope that this does help plant the seed, so to speak.
Yeah,
See what I
definitely.
did there? Oh, well, this has been a really fun, interesting conversation, and I learned so much. And I hope our audience is enjoying going on this ride with us.
Yeah, me too. So thank you for tuning in. And don't forget to check out our website, our merch. We have our mugs with us today for coffee. And thanks to all who bought us
Cheers.
some coffee and who've already bought some of our merch. We so appreciate your support. And don't forget to subscribe wherever you can and like and follow because any of those sort of actions will help us in the future promote our podcast and get more people to listen and join our community.
Yeah, it is a numbers game, so every
Yeah,
time you hit like or comment or subscribe, it helps us grow. And we want to keep doing this because we really are enjoying
we
it.
are enjoying it.
So,
So, all right. Thank you. Thank you for joining in on the matriarchy.
and welcome to our community.